Welcome to Clobbered, Mark Baxter, Mark Webster, episode 1, the shopping forecast. There will be many more, of course, Bax, of these,
yes,
but we might as well start where we mean to go on, because we don't mind nipping into the shops every now and then,
we'd like a shop,
picking a thing up or two. Just before we start, and this does fit, this is a kind of correction to what is our origin story. Mm-hmm. We borrowed this from Marvel and DC. We're now mentioned in the same breath. This is Clobbered, which of course is your and I, our formative years.
Yeah.
And at the very end of it, I refer to a pair of jeans I got on, indeed carpenter trousers, as being original American Smiths.
Yeah.
They're not.
Ah.
They're from Millets.
Ah.
And I want to start with Millets.
Millets, yeah.
Because Millets, strangely enough, in that period in the mid to late 70s, mm-hmm. obviously a shop where Workman went and got work stuff.
Yeah.
But I got some things out of there. And not least of these, it was the straight leg carpenter jeans.
Okay.
Were there.
Okay.
Strange enough, when worn to go out to a club, often underneath a pair of baggy jeans in the boozer, just in case.
Okay.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
But it's strange, but like a good old-fashioned Workman stuff is I mean, we buy the American gear, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, I didn't buy a lot of stuff out of Millets, but a lot of stuff out of the Army Surplus.
Right.
Which is very similar, but they tend to have quite a lot of older labels, more traditional labels.
Yes.
Perhaps. So your Fred Perry, Ben Sherman's, again, bit of dead stock in there. Always worth a rummage. Amazing. Some of the things you could find here, like the old tough boots, TUF. And they were, like, suddenly go, we've got these, perfect. Or dealer boots, because I was always in that sort of, wasn't really Workman, more like a sort of old totter. I like the old totter look. I like the old rag and bone look. I've always liked that.
But it's functional clothing though, isn't it?
Functional chaps clothing. But,
totally.
But yeah, gentlemen of the road.
What I wore, and for many years, and it got better as it got older, is what Millets also did in drill were a wider cut kind of carpenter trouser in like either the beige or the blue. I mean, basically, I'm not describing a shop where some cutting-edge designer has come up.
No.
This is only dealt for this. So, but what they also had was the matching shirt, which was basically a pullover, thick twill shirt in either beige or blue as well. And I got the blue one. I wore it forever with a little neckerchief underneath. And the longer I wore it, the bluer and more faded it got, and the better that it was. So
always can always find things in places. Totally. That's what I liked about them. It wasn't like you walk into a shop and it's on the rails, it's all set out. Them places you could go in there and say, "You got to sell like that, mate," and then something else would come out, and it'd be even better than what you went in.
And the thing about it is they just weren't expecting young blokes going there saying, I need something for Saturday night out.
No,
which of course
definitely.
is what we were doing.
It was more digging the roads up.
I had it's well sort of my first high-top pair of trainers. Disaster. That's for another episode of Clobbered.
Look forward to that.
And as I mentioned there, This is Clobbered is our intro episode. You can see it on the YouTube channel. It's available for you all the time as we go through the weeks with our other stories. But this is a perfect opportunity while we're talking about shops is, of course, you're hands-on. This is where it all began for you, isn't it?
I mean, it's a funny one because I was working in the print and newspaper industry, and while I was there, I've always been quite a busy person. That was not enough. Even though it was like 24-hour shifts, they were quite long shifts, I still wanted more. So I ended up getting a stall at Camden Market. I'm talking mid to late 80s. So it wasn't quite the Camden you know now.
Right, now, but of course it's always been a popular market, but 60s probably onwards.
Yeah, I mean,
but in and out.
It's very, very, very ramshackle back in the 70s. I remember going to the 70s with my granddad, who was an old rag and bone man. That is what he did. The original recycler, as I call them.
Yes.
And he said one day we'll just go down there, and it was literally stables. They were all stables, which that's why it's called the stables market. Yep. And obviously been cleaned out, and then people were just literally wares on the floor on a blanket. And I remember it very fondly. And then went back there, like I said, mid to late 80s. It was just getting going, a bit buzzy. A lot of vintage coming in, clothes and stuff. We got a stall. We couldn't sell clothes originally because the guy next to us had a load of pots of vases and pots. And the thought of a pair of Levi's, knocking his pots over.
In a slight gust of wind comes along.
There was quite a lot of gust of wind.
Oh no!
And he wasn't having it, so we got in there like a Trojan horse. We got in there selling bric-a-brac, and then slowly introduced vintage clothes.
And where were you getting your bits and pieces from?
Jumble sales, boot fairs. If I was in a pub and someone said I'm throwing out a load of glasses, I'd take all the glasses. I'd take soda siphons. I would literally we'd go around a load of skips, but not just any skip, obviously. Maida Vale, Knightsbridge, Chelsea. We were doing all the skips. Chairs, tables, anything can get on.
Was it easier? I'm going to assume it had to have been easier pickings, or I suppose depends on what then becomes popular stuff.
This is bearing in mind, this is before the shabby chic years.
Right.
This is just old tut, really.
Yes.
But you were getting dealers coming from Japan, America, and Europe, and they had not seen our tut, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so a soda siphon, like Schweppes soda siphon, to us is just a soda siphon. To them, the bloke said, I'll just fill it with coloured water. I'll do 50 of them behind the bar. Looks fantastic.
Beautiful.
Then I thought, I can get you 50. And there's your deal. There's me number, no card, no mobile. There's my number and a thing. I'll call you. And that's what we did.
What were the clothes that you? What was big statement items?
Yeah, the big thing we had to do was drive up to Leicester, and for 50 quid you get a barrel of clothes. You didn't know what was in it, but in there will be a big E Levi. Or Americano or Hawaiian shirts, but you had to go through a load of stuff.
So playing the lottery, lottery.
These guys knew what they were doing. They were shipping it all over from the States, like loads and loads of stuff, and they just baling it up and putting it in the cardboard boxes. And for 50 quid, it's like the old what do you call it now? The where you go, the storage units. You don't know what's in there. You just go, I've been on the storage unit, and you get what's in there, and that's what we were doing. And of course, you open it up, and if you had shoes, you get sold to a shoe man. If you had jeans, you sold to the jeans guy. But we occasionally get a little nugget.
This is great. I mean, the second hand obviously is a massive conversation that we always have, and I know the current example of that, to a great extent, is the enormous vintage football shirt market, in which most people who are shopping aren't worrying about which team it is. No. They want it to be third division, Greek league, second shirt.
Irony.
But that arrives in a giant bundle as well, which is brilliant. I know that's kind of you're touching on your middle years of shopping. I want to show you. It's a picture here. This is me in Edinburgh. Telly days. That's Craig Ferguson, now massive in the States.
Doing quite well.
And the reason I show you that is that entire outfit. Excuse me. I can't remember the stall, but I know it's all from Kensington Market.
Okay.
And possibly when Hyper started.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that kind of there was a period when the idea of those little mini stalls were absolutely having it away.
Yeah,
so that's kind of a weird jacket. It's a kind the trousers, by the way, are velvet in burgundy with a green back patch pocket.
Okay.
For no apparent reason at all that I can explain to you now. But you could go, and because the good thing in those days was it was hodgepodge of old bits, but new designs were coming through, weren't they?
And that is the step up from the market stall.
Yes.
Guys who had the market stall for quite a long while got well known, a bit like Red or Dead. They were down the market. When I started in that market, they had a stall there, Red or Dead, Wayne.
Which is amazing to think about.
They had a stall pretty near the Electric Ballroom, and they did really well. And a lot of those stally guys started to move into shops because they were people going, I want more, I need more.
Yes.
One day a week's not enough. And they would become regulars. And that's what happened to me. Eventually I had the stall, and then I lost my job. I got made redundant. I thought, what I'll do is I'll go and buy a lot more of those bales for 50 quid. Yeah. And I was selling them in the shop, and I did that in the shop.
So the shop was called Clobber, and that was on your local manor, wasn't it?
It was in Camberwell, and it was down a terrible location, but it got discovered by quite a big student population, like art student, big college there.
See, it's probably better for especially kids of that age, to find it, rather than it being plopped in their faces.
It was a word of mouth thing. It took a while to get going, and then I got discovered by more the raver scene, more the club scene.
Wow!
Because I was quite a predominantly mixed race, multicultural area, and they would come in saying, "What about us? What can you get for us?" So I started buying in the West End, around the back of where Topshop used to be. There's quite a lot of wholesalers around here, and I was picking up what they call cabbage. You go out the back, and he says there's £100 worth of stuff there, but there's buttons missing, there's bits and pieces missing. £100 cash. Yeah. Again, this is when you got to start somewhere. And then you go back, and it turns out one or two bits were really good. You got the missus to sew a button on, or whatever.
And voila!
And I then developed basically a club shop. I was selling clubwear. Amazing. Because it it was more streetwear than clubwear.
Now, I know the kind of around that era in terms of your shopping, this is a place and an idea that we'll go back to time and time again, I'm sure. But there was a destination on Longacre that was unavoidable. And I was talking about this to someone the other day. I swear this is the time the word vintage started to get used in terms of clothes. I think up to that point, to a great extent, it was still second-hand.
Second-hand clothes, yeah.
But the shop that introduced vintage for me was...
Flip. Yeah. Flip on Longacre. And I do think that was where a lot of that stuff, now with a bit of hindsight, that's when they were getting the stuff from the same place we got it eventually. Yeah. They were getting bales, they bought a lot of it. And I was that was when I was not necessarily earning a lot of money, but I liked to cut of a sort of 60s sort of mod Ivy League look, and you could get tons of it down there. Button-down shirts, knitwear, cardigans, the varsity sweaters.
Yes.
You had to go through it all. It's a bit like vintage TK Maxx, really. You had to go through it for hours, but you find a couple of nuggets in there. Levi jeans, and I bought a hell of a lot of stuff.
I think Flip as well.
I loved it.
Was probably the place which really instilled the idea of the Americano in terms of collegiate and sportswear. Because I think that's where we started to see, not least of which is probably just literally shirts that people play sport in.
Yeah. I mean,
NFL shirts, basketball vests, that kind of thing. But they had it in numbers, plaid shirts as well.
And you couldn't get those American sportswear. It wasn't American sportswear shops, was it? Really?
No, not at all.
So what you saw, I thought, just grab that because it's so unusual. Again, he didn't know much about the teams. He didn't really care.
His colours.
It was just a good look, and obviously the styling of it all, even to this day. I still love the basketball look, and I still love the American football look. I just think that collegiate look is a wonderful look. The logos, the typefaces, I love all that. Always have done.
I would say it's not gone. No, I would say that was established now to the point where, of course, so ironically, American designers, or even not even necessarily American designers, young Americans are dressing in their own flea market, their own vintage, their own thrift store. So they're wearing their own old-fashioned stuff, which I think is a bit of a tweak, because the point always is that we were dressing like people from 3,000 miles away and 50 years ago. Yeah. But that was the trick, wasn't it?
It was also like, certain clubs I went to, certain places I went to, people would get it or not get it. The old Kent Road was quite a tough one to wear that stuff down like a basketball vest. Please explain what that's about.
Exactly.
You weren't getting much of that at my Millwall associates. They weren't quite having that.
No, it was Saturday night special.
Yeah, you had a wag or somewhere, then it just worked.
Yes.
So it alters for courses.
Makes sense. Right, coming up to date.
Yes.
And buying new stuff is an acquired taste for me nowadays, because I just feel like I might have enough, but I can't. You don't know. This is the problem.
Yeah, there's never enough.
You never close. We never close. Never stop. But there are places that I will not look.
Yeah.
And the place I will not look, wherever I am, is the bowels of H&M in the men's bit.
Yeah.
Because in the bowels of H&M in the men's bit, there's
gold to be had. Yeah.
They always have got. Look, basically, I'll walk into onto their floor where the men's stuff is, and I will be the lighthouse, and I'll be giving it this to look for the red tags on the top of the rail, which is the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
So once you see them, you know you're in that right corner.
Yeah.
Then when you get into that corner, more often than not, you will see the sale rail. And the sale rail often, and I am probably 30, 40 items deep on this one here, is one-offs, flotsam and jetsam, bits and pieces, outsize, samples. Did 10, no one bought it. Here's 9 of them.
Yeah.
That kind of territory.
Lovely.
And strangely enough, we drove up past, Milton Keynes relatively recently, where the H&M building is, which is bigger than the county that Milton Keynes is in, wherever that might be. Is that Buckinghamshire? Around that territory. It's enormous. So it's not surprising they've got some bits and pieces left over.
Yeah.
And it's great that what they do is they throw it at some shops.
Wow.
But you've got to go in all the shops.
Yeah.
And here's the example I'll give you from many. Now, the reason I like these is because they're it's the mixture of, it's a traditional grey flannel trouser.
Yes, indeed.
But with a drawstring.
Yeah.
waist like a tracksuit bottom.
Tracksuit bottom, yeah.
From the David Beckham range.
My word.
Yes, there was. No, there isn't anymore, as far as I know. But
fair play.
I know, £8 probably.
Oh, my word.
Because no one wanted them anymore.
Well, that's a bargain and a half, isn't it? Really?
I took it. So never not go past the H&M.
No, you give me a little tip there.
And especially because it will provide for the fuller gentleman.
Comfortably built.
For the gentleman. So that's how I like to find my way around the contemporary shop. Have you got one?
Yeah, for me, it's Uniqlo. I mean...
Yeah,
because up until fairly recently, it used to be quite skimpy sizes, I found.
True.
And then I was looking online, I got sent a neat link, and it was like 3XL, and I thought, that's interesting.
Yes.
So I bought a knitted cardigan and give it a go, and lovely, ample. In fact, too big, which I don't mind.
No, grow into it.
Then you realise that when the shop, and again, not all of it's for me. Not all of it speaks to me. But the history of the place is very interesting. The founder, obviously, it was in Japan, and there was still American US army bases there. And the guys off duty were wearing quite a lot of Ivy League clothing. The guy picked up on it, the young man picked up on it, developed it into a sort of more Japanese cut. And that really is the origins of it all. And they've always loved the Ivy League out there. There's quite a big history of Japanese guys in the 60s wearing look. There's a couple of books, one book called Take Ivy in particular, that did really well. Literally just going over to the colleges, the Ivy League colleges, taking photographs of the guys wearing their everyday gear, and then it went massive in Japan. So it's got that heritage, and sometimes when you walk in there, you can see that in some of the clothing.
That's the joy of that shop, I think.
Yeah.
Is do not be deceived, but you can't take a scant look at it.
No.
Get stuck in, and there'll be something really neat.
There'll be something there you're thinking, that looks very much like an Ivy League 3-button blazer. And it is, really, that's what it is. But for the modern contemporary cut and look. But fundamentally, that's where it's coming from.
And decent value.
Very good value, great prices. I mean, you get a couple of seasons out of it, like I say, a knitted cardigan, maybe 30 quid, 40 quid. That ain't too bad. Because some of these places, they're charging you 150 quid.
Exactly.
So,
I like it. I love
that shop.
Whilst we're in the kind of contemporary mood, is a thing which is called New Bits. And it's a very short, sharp take on what's out there that we've seen. I'm going to show you the one I've had. And literally, as I was walking along Savile Road to arrive here in our Hackney basement, which is the fact that's the Burberry shop, which is, of course, on the corner of Savile Row and Regent Street. And the old check is in their window. I'm a big fan of the old check. 1920s was introduced inside raincoats. 1960s, it sort of became their signature.
Yeah.
In the 2000s, it got abused. But it didn't get abused, I think, by the people that people pointed the finger at.
No.
Because working class folk dared to start wearing a lot of it.
Yeah.
And stiffy middle class people, as far as I'm concerned, started to sneer at them about it.
Yeah, they did.
Now, okay, fine. Perhaps it was worn a lot. But the bit I didn't like is that don't get all on your high horse about the fact that just because some working class people have got a bit of dough, they want to show it. And they want to show it by wearing a bit of traditional British clothing.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that, because they struggled with a bit by using that check for many years. So I'm delighted to say that the classic Burberry check is back by the looks of things.
Yeah.
Which is good.
One or two of our people who wore it went a bit over the top with it. It's bit I know that was like head to toe in it, but I do take your point, yeah.
Right, what's yours?
Gabici.
A classic name.
A name that I've worn since I was a young man. And this is brand new, just come out. This is called Roy. The style called Roy, and this is the company listening to the retailers mainly. The retailers are saying, look, they like the brand, but they...
Can I just do the touch? This is heavy.
This is heavy.
This is not a kind of piece of lightweight.
No, this has been made with the old school in mind. And basically, the answer of it was that the retailer is saying, we get the older chap in, loves the Gabici, but they like the old styles. The company listened to that. They've done an archive range where they've invited old customers to send in their favourite bits.
Oh, wow.
And they've basically copied it or adapted it, and you've got longer collars, bigger pockets, the cloth G, all the things that I love, and I actually went out and purchased this. It's a bit of me.
This is brand spanking new.
It's still in the shops now. It's just literally in the shops.
Could have been from any time since 1973.
I'm guessing 1973. Yeah.
How about it? Love it.
Love it.
There you go. Well, okay, that was Clobbered. That was, of course, the shopping forecast. You can see our origin story. This is Clobbered on YouTube, and you can see all of our stuff via social media. If you like it, tell everybody else.